King Charles was heckled by a protester asking him about Prince Andrew's relationship with convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein yesterday on a visit to Lichfield Cathedral. And here's what happened when he was faced with those heckling questions about his brother.
How long have you known about Andrew and Epstein? Have you asked the police to cover up for Andrew? Have you asked the police to cover up for Andrew?
An awkward encounter, wasn't it? So protect himself and the royal family. Should the King publicly denounce his brother? Joining us now is newsreader and former royal correspondent Simon McCoy, who believes the King should publicly denounce Andrew, and royal biographer Robert Hardman, who thinks the royals do not have to respond to every headline. Good morning to you both. Thank you for coming in to discuss this morning. Simon, should we start with you then? Put the case for why you think that he should denounce.
Well, looking at those pictures yesterday, heckling, when Robert and I started in this business many years ago, heckling was very rare. We're going to see more of this because I think, for the first time, the royals are out of step, very out of step with how the public feel about this. The public are very, very angry, and we're feeling like we're being treated like fools. You know, there's Prince Andrew, who is wanted for questioning to help in a huge inquiry about the sex trafficking of young women. There are victims in this, and Prince Andrew can help. At least he can help. And he's doing nothing. And the danger now is that you have the King, who, for many looking on this, are saying, well, he's part of a cover-up here, because we still don't know. Prince Andrew paid £12 million to Virginia Giuffre. We don't know really what for. A woman he said he never met. The story does not work. The public need to know that actually the King, who we know is a decent man, I'm a monarchist, I want the monarchy to survive this, but it is facing an existential crisis unless he does something.
Robert, well, on that point then, you know, the danger for the royal family in a sense, and the fact that actually we could then see these protests continue, and it's not a good look, is it?
Well, I mean, to put the heckling in context yesterday, I mean, that was one protester with an agenda from the pressure group Republic, who was there very much with one thing in mind, which was just to embarrass the King. It wasn't reflecting, I don't think, you know, it wasn't some sort of passionate passerby.
It was a fair question. What did they know and when?
The fact is that the monarch, the King, the late Queen, they're not in the business of giving a running commentary on anything. That's not the point of the monarchy. We have people who give a running commentary. They're Ed's old colleagues in Parliament. That's what politicians do. Politicians respond to headlines. Monarchs don't do that. And the late Queen didn't do that, because once you start doing that, you lose the sort of scarcity value, if you like. A monarchy, you can do lots for. I mean, the King. The
public sentiment, though, that Simon was mentioning there.
Yes,
they have to be aware of that.
Oh, they're totally aware of it, which is one of the reasons why the King was behind the decision to get rid of Prince Andrew's titles, get him to lose them. Now, public opinion is, I think the palace hope was that you know, that would calm things down. Actually, as we've seen, and I you know, don't take nothing away from the fact the public are angry about this, but the question is, how does the King respond? The King. I think back to when Prince Harry was lobbying accusations at the monarchy just after the King became king back in the autumn of 2022. And for about 12 weeks non-stop, you had Harry with his 6-part Netflix series, followed by his book Spare and all the interviews around it. And there were these constant accusations being lobbed at the monarchy. And he didn't respond. And people said, oh, the King must respond. And actually, the King didn't respond because, you know, the monarchy is above that kind of stuff. Leave it to the politicians.
You cannot compare Harry and Andrew. We have Andrew, who's wanted for questioning in America, who Scotland Yard would quite like to talk to, for help in investigating a very serious global scandal. And don't bring Harry into that sort of league. We're talking about a prince who is in disgrace, who's done something clearly
but he hasn't been accused of anything. He's been charged of anything.
Well,
he hasn't been sentenced.
He defends everything.
He's shown deplorable judgment in the court of public opinion. He's a total wrong one. Everybody hates him. But what is the King supposed to respond to? The King is the fountain of justice. He has to respond to concrete, sensible issues at a key moment. He can't just sort of launch a statement on the basis
about
that
the contact that
but what I don't understand what he would be denouncing, what he would actually be saying.
Well, it stands for decency and what is right in this country.
Yeah.
I think the country is looking at this and saying, this is wrong. Prince Andrew, as you say, is a wrong one. And yet the King has said nothing. He's said nothing about the victims. He's said nothing to denounce Epstein and what went on.
The royal family do a running commentary, as I say.
Robert, though, kind of at key moments in history, the abdication of Edward VIII, Baldwin steps in. Princess Margaret going to marry a divorcee, Eden steps in. The trouble that the monarchy got into after the death of Diana, Tony Blair steps in. At key moments, our monarchs have got behind the curve and politicians have stepped in. Shouldn't Keir Starmer be telling the King they need to go further and be tougher? Because Simon's right, they are behind the curve on this.
Well, except what are they behind the curve on? It's such an opaque story. The whole problem with the Andrews story is no one knows where it's going next.
It's opaque because they want it to be opaque.
If you had a final judgment, if you had, if there was some sort of settlement, if something was finally resolved, then of course, then that would be something for the King to talk about. But at the moment, he'd be discussing something that could change literally next week. I mean, on a weekly basis, we get new revelations about the Andrews story. We don't know where it's going. No one knows where it's going. No one knows where the whole Epstein story is going. I mean, it's a much bigger story than just Prince Andrew.
And he's had his title stripped because the palace clearly feels it's
morally... Let's also...
No, he hasn't.
He has not had anything done to him. No. He has voluntarily given up some titles.
OK.
And who could...
And that needs to go to the House of Commons.
Who strips him of the dukedom? That, as I said, that is one for politicians. We have to be mindful that in this, he's not an autocrat, the King. He can't wave a magic wand and say this must happen. I mean,
Andrew, you were Keir Starmer, would you support legislation to strip him of his titles?
Yes, I think I would, because I think the public wants that. And if politicians are there for one thing, it's to reflect what the public want.
Would it be the wrong thing?
I think it would be the wrong thing, because the last person to have his title stripped was someone who was actually fighting for the Kaiser in the First World War. The last person to have his knighthood of the Garter taken away was Emperor Hirohito of Japan at the height of the Second World War. Whatever you think about Prince Andrew, the one thing he has not done, he's not a traitor, he has fought for his country. Just treating him like someone who actually was fighting against his country. I think we need to keep a sense of perspective. When it's over, when there is some concrete decision that the King can talk about, then that's the time to speak.
Okay.
But at the moment, the King will be just talking into the ether like a politician.
We will have to leave it there.
We're told her title would be stripped simply to marry a divorcee. What Prince Andrew has done is materially different.
No, she wasn't actually. She could keep her title. What she couldn't do is her children would not be in the line of succession. But she had quite a good deal.
I am afraid we will have to draw things to a close there.
And that's exactly what the King... It suits everybody except the public, who now want to know what's going on.
Thank you. I sensed this would continue for a lot longer, but we are out of time. But thank you both very much. We asked you on X if the King publicly denounced his brother Prince Andrew to protect himself and the royal family. Should he do that? 70% of you said yes, and 30% of you said no. Thank you for getting in touch with your views on that one.